Hello, and welcome to the Early Bird Special with your hosts, Carole Montgomery and Julia Scotti. And now, here's Carole Montgomery.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome, 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 welcome. Another day, another week, another thing going on. So for the people that were wondering where we were last week, we took some time off. Julia and I were both exhausted because, we're old bitches. And we just needed some time to recoup. And it was actually really good for me because not only did I not do the show for Early Bird Special, but I also did not do the Crane Show because literally after we're done here today, I have to scoot out and do the virtual show at the Crane because it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it. How is everybody as we go into the second wave of coronavirus? Because, the president beat it. He's immune to it. And all it took was a couple of baby aspirins and he is done. He is out there. So start drinking that bleach, ladies and gentlemen, because, I'm sure all of us could afford the amount of stuff that the president got. So because we have a fabulous guest. Julia actually said this to me. And, she's I love Julia because she thinks of things I wouldn't. And she said, we've been focusing basically on women in comedy, but we should start to explore women in other fields, still in show business, but in other fields. So I'm so excited about this. So our guest today is a fabulous filmmaker named Susan Sandler, and she directed the Julia Scotti's documentary, which we'll talk about. So let's bring on Julia, and then we can talk some more about what's happening. And so here we are. Let's bring on Miss Julia.
Hooray for Hollywood!
La 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 la, la Hollywood. Okay, now hold on. Whoo!
How are you?
I'm good. That was
I know. I like to start off each show with a song.
You do.
And jazz hands.
You do. When we finally go to Broadway, I'm going to specifically say that you get a dance number. You get the showstopper number that usually
the 11 o'clock.
The 11 o'clock number. Julia Scotti, and when you're sitting there wheezing with your oxygen, but who fucking asked for it?
It'll be one performance only, and then I die at the end.
But boy, would that be a great show.
What a way to go.
So we have lots of news to tell everybody. Congratulations, the film. Tell us.
Congratulations to you too.
Well, thank you. I'll tell them about that, but let's talk about the film first.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So.
Oh, okay. Well, as you know, it's the film Julia Scotti, Funny That Way, has been playing at festivals all summer, all around the country. Now it's coming to New York this week, and I'm going to let Susan talk a little bit about it. But we're really, really excited. It's gotten some amazing reviews from each festival that it's been in, and I'm starting to. Somebody said to me the other day, "Well, I've never had a movie made about my life," and I was like, well, and then I started to think about it. I go, I had a movie made about my life.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Sometimes it takes a while to sink into my big, fat, stupid Italian head, but yeah.
And as people have heard me say, it's such a wonderful film. It will make you laugh. It will make you cry. It's a wonderful film, and I'm so glad it's getting the recognition it deserves. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that you have a movie about yourself, and you're like, what?
And I didn't shoot it on my phone.
Yeah, but comics in general are so. Like I was having this discussion. I was talking to Thea Vidal last night because she had finally done her first. She was able to go out and do a show in Houston.
Uh-huh.
And she said, Carole, everyone was treating me so well. And they were treating me like, I said, you're Thea Vidal. You know what I mean? Like you're a legend in the business. And she couldn't wrap it around. None of us can wrap this shit around our heads that we're actually good at our fields.
I think we get, having been in the business as long as you and I and Thea and, a number of other counts have been, you get used to just people just dumping on you constantly.
Absolutely.
And you start to believe that you have no worth or any value. I mean, I mean, when Susan approached me about this movie, and I was like, well, who's going to want to see a movie about me? And she, she did her magic, and she produced a really neat product. So
yeah, and like I said, it's an amazing. It pulls away the curtain on our business in a way too. About it was fun. It was fun to watch you in the olden days and now, and
some of it wasn't that much fun to watch.
Well, I enjoyed it. And very quickly, before we bring Susan on, we're going to talk more about the movie, what Julia is talking about. So when we first got Funny Women of Certain Age on the first special, we were signed with an agency called Columbia Artists, which is a very well-respected agency, but they did not do stand-up. They were mostly philharmonics and concert halls. And then this was going to be their first comedy production. And we were supposed to actually start to go on the road tomorrow, by the way. And
wait, let me pack.
Yeah, really. During the pandemic, as everyone knows, all the agencies had to be furloughed and everything. Well, long story short, unfortunately, Columbia Artists closed their doors forever, and they'd been around since 1932. But one of the things that happened is I did meet with somebody else, a gentleman named Seth Greenleaf, who runs G4 Productions. They're the people behind Menopause the Musical. And they're also they have a lot of Broadway shows. If you go to their website, G4 Productions, you can see all the shows they've been involved with. And we met, and really nice man, a wonderful man, and we clicked, and we'd been talking about this, working together, and we finally signed all the contracts. So we will be going on tour next year, 2021. So
congratulations!
And start packing, Julia, because
okay.
You're.
I mean, I don't know. I know you've been feeling the same way over the last couple of months. How desperate everything seemed. Like we felt like we all just were finally on the verge.
Right.
So this kind of gives me a little bit of hope now.
Oh yeah, I'm, like one of the things I said to people is we're all not going to get the money that we wanted, because most of these theaters are going to be at 50% capacity. But the idea that that the company, obviously it's a great brand. We know it's a great brand, but that they were like, yes, we want to do this. We're gonna push this is great. And then eventually the goal is to bring it to Broadway, and Julia's 11th hour number. I can't wait for that. Anyway, let me bring on our fabulous guest. Susan is a playwright. She is a professor at NYU. She is a filmmaker. She has, I really want to talk to her, besides talking about the film, all about her side of what it's like to be a woman and her side of the business. So let's bring out Susan Sandler. Yay! Hi, Susan.
It's surreal to be here because I am a big fan of this show.
Oh, thanks.
And I watch it all the time. I've watched it from my bathtub. I've watched it from all different locations. So it feels wonderful to be in this room.
Well, I just love wherever you're coming from. I want to live there.
You have to see
my undisclosed location?
An undisclosed location.
I've been there though.
Oh yeah,
and it's you would love it.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Anyway, so let's talk. Let's talk to you as a woman on the other side of the business. First of all, for people, if you look up, you can go and look Susan up on Google, of course. But what's funny about the movie and the play that became the movie, Crossing the Landsea, like that's one of my favorite films, which is like so fucking weird that it's like now I know you, and I'm like, oh my God,
And
so,
for those who don't know, Susan wrote it.
Yes, she wrote the play.
A lot of people don't know that. So
And I wrote it first as a 5-character play,
right,
and then as a screenplay. So the journey from this small production, this off-Broadway theater with Melanie Mayron and Shirley Stoller played the amazing Shirley Stoller played the matchmaker from Honeymoon Killers, and she did some great work on Broadway. That was the role that Sylvia Miles won, so they had a little. That was
Oh,
the
wow.
journey from a little place to a bigger place.
So how was it like writing a play as a female playwright? How do you like is it the same bullshit that we are dealing with as females in the comedy business, or do they give you more respect because you're a playwright?
I think the theater is a pretty happy place to be a writer, but right now there's a big movement to make more room for women writers, and companies are being called, completely on target if they're not producing at least half their season with female writers and people of color and just diversity across the board. So I think a lot of good things are happening, a lot of opportunities for a lot of folks. But it's really all about, at the end of the day, telling a good story. Just as in your business, if you're telling a good story, if you have something exciting happen, people will find you, and that's kind of what my journey's been like.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's good. That's such a great line about, and it seems so simple to tell a good story, but so many people don't know how to do that.
Yeah,
it's really, and for me, during the pandemic, Julia and I've talked about this. Like one of the things I've been doing is watching old TV and old sitcoms, and the old sitcoms have such. Their characters are just so solid, and that's part of it too. Is you get this bunch of characters together, and like we're still watching Bob Newhart, and we're in I think season 5, and
right.
Bill Daly, who most people probably remember from I Dream of Jeannie. He is one of the funniest sidekicks I have ever seen on a show, and every time he opens that door, he's the original. Julia, who's the guy who was in Seinfeld? The guy that used to come in, open the door. Kramer. He's the original Kramer. So it's interesting to hear you say this about the, the story, and it's so important. And if you don't have that,
yeah, richly developed characters. I had a guest in my class. I teach at NYU Tisch in the film program, and all of these young writers just dying to step out into their careers, figuring out what the stories are they're going to tell. And I had a guest in the class who broke out of this program 2 years ago, and she's on a Netflix series. I mean, she's just really killing it. And she works her ass off. She does that because she knows how to tell good stories, and she knows how to develop really rich, complex characters. Yeah. And that's what the Newhart show did. In that genre, rich, complex characters. And that's what drew me to Julia Scotti. That was the seed that began the documentary Julia Scotti Funny That Way, which is having its New York premiere at the fabulous festival New Fest, which is an LGBTQ festival. And our film will be running from October 16th through July 27th, streaming nationally. Wow. So your listeners can find it at newfest.org. The tickets are only $12. The passes for the whole phenomenal lineup are $95. So for $95, you can stream over 100 films for this period of time. It's an amazing deal. But devoted fans of Julia's can buy their single ticket, stream it as much as they want for that period of time, and also see a Q&A with Julia that Julia and I did.
And you?
Yeah.
Yes, we both did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's
my little spot.
Yeah. All right. And,
got it out of the way.
All right. And thank you, Julia. And we'll go to the next one.
No, but the story, the idea of telling the story, it's not something I ever thought my story was that interesting.
And you kept saying that throughout the process. The process
I still feel that way.
5 years. 5 years of work on this film. Mm-hmm. I met Julia in the summer of.
It was right before
2016, right?
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, 2016. Yeah.
She was on a bill that Jane Condon, the wonderful Jane Condon, produced on Nantucket at the Dreamland Theater. I was sitting in the second row, and I just said, I want to know this person. We hung out after the show. I was blown away by what I saw. It was fearless. It was wild. It was, I hadn't seen anybody like her ever. And I wanted to know her. So we hung out, and she gave me a pilot that she had written, co-written, to read. And I shared that with my agent. And then we began talking on the phone. And I thought about helping her do a one-woman show. I had done that with Jane. And I know, Carole, that you do that. You help
Yes.
people organize one-person shows. So you know what that process is. You listen a lot. You get to
Right.
hear someone's story. So that was what happened. We started talking, and Julia started telling me more and more about, the world of Julia. And then, this big headline just absolutely appeared, which was, this woman's story is a documentary. And, in the documentary world, it's all about not only a delicious central character, but what are the materials that you're bringing into the story. And with Julia, there was, the promise of all this great archival material that I had to dig into the back of her closet to find. We cleaned out a few closets. So we found, wonderful old material, footage of her work in clubs many, many years ago when she identified as Rick Scotty. And that material wasn't necessarily beautifully preserved, so there was a lot of work involved in, cleaning that up. But one of the really cool things, in the middle of some old demo tapes, there'd be 15 copies of an old, VHS demo. There would be this jewel of home movie,
Right.
where she would, have you done that? Do you find that in your old demos? You find little bits of your history that because you've used an old tape to
Oh yeah.
something?
Oh yeah, and what's fun about what you're talking about in those clips where the old tape, I like the way it looks. I like that it's a little, raggedy around the edge, because that's what it was. We didn't really have much, we didn't have iPhones or anything.
Yeah.
It was really, and we're not talking that long ago. We're not even.
We had the big old VHS,
Right.
yeah.
So yeah. Now I have a question for Julia. So when you were going through all the old material and stuff, is there anything that you feel you could use now?
Material-wise?
Yeah.
I actually did pull a joke, and it didn't come from that material. Somebody reminded me of the joke that I used on AGT, and it's the one about jogging and seeing dead relatives at the end of the block. And just doing,
actually, that is in the archive. We have a montage, which is a really cool montage where that joke is told over period of time, and we cut from set to set to set to set. And it's Julia over this 20-year period landing on AGT with that joke. So that joke was a very big. That was a very important joke for the film.
And it was one of the first ones I ever wrote. I mean, it goes back, that's how far back that joke goes. And
wow.
And I stopped doing it for years and years and years. But you can see every now and then and it's usually because somebody said, that joke you used to do? And like, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, well, I do that anyway. I mean, like my husband will make a joke, take something that I did, and I was like, that was a good joke. Why did I stop using that joke? You forget that because you especially in our business, that it's all like you'll hear like, oh, Seinfeld's doing a brand new hour, or Louis C.K.'s doing new material. So there's always this pressure to
feel obligated,
to be obligated. And me, I will do the same 12 dick jokes for the rest of my fucking life.
One of my favorite sequences that did not make it into the film, because we shot, the ratio of what you shoot to what you finally have in the 73 minutes of the film, hundreds of hours of footage. And I spent many, 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 many years looking at Julia Scotti and all the characters in her life, figuring out what that 73 minutes was going to be. But one of the sequences that didn't make it in, Julia is sitting with her son, Dan, looking at her notebooks where she collected ideas for jokes, and kind of this archaeological dig into what was that note about, and what was the joke that, that grew into that. There was, here's a random phone call.
Oh, I didn't know. We're taking calls.
Goodbye. Do you remember that, Julia? That afternoon with Dan?
I sort of remember it, and it's it's funny. I just had somebody here yesterday. Kathy Colo was here. We were working on a new bit, and she took notes, and I don't remember what we were talking about. I'm looking at the notes now, trying to decipher what we were talking about. So it goes in, it goes out. Yeah. And I have little. And Carole, you probably have the same thing.
Well, what's interesting is it's so fascinating what we do. Like I have notebooks just like you do. Now I've been doing stand-up since '79, so I have every single one of those notebooks.
That's
and I go through them, and I'm like, same thing. You're like, what was that? Why does it say potato? You're like, I know that I wrote it going, potato. I'll remember that. And, it's
And how
45.
stoned was I when I wrote it?
There was the one
Exactly.
you remember about dolphins and needles.
Yes,
Really?
I remember that. Yes, I do
You and
remember
Dan,
that bit.
Dan said, "What is this dolphins and needles?"
Oh, I know exactly what that was. Back in the summers of I forget it was, but needles were washing up on the Jersey Shore during the summer,
Right.
and I think I had a bit about junkie dolphins.
Ha!
You know, just strung out on But you kind of with this movie, you got to go through the journals too,
Yes.
which
She
I
was,
had
she was
been.
so fearless. She gave me everything, and I have boxes of Julia memorabilia. Julia is completely. And I say this to my student, just to in the research, even for fiction piece, if you're researching the world of your story, just to get completely saturated in the subject, and there's no end to your interest in what you can find. And Julia was so generous to share with me her journals, her writing, this manuscript of a book that she's been working on that was really important in terms of understanding your narrative. So I just all went into the wonderful big stew.
I'm a chronic. I write everything. I just, even if nothing is ever done with it, I just put it down somewhere. And I don't know what compelled me to chronicle this journey, to Julia from Rick, and I began. I think, I know I got everything down, Susan, and she managed to pull the important stuff out for this movie, that the timely stuff, the really heart-wrenching stuff.
Yeah.
And it just really, she just did such an extraordinary job, and her editor too. Her editing is fantastic.
My editing partner, yep.
Yeah. So
Marsha
Well,
Warren-Seaver.
first of all, comedy is a shitty business to begin with, and for you to go through what you had to go through to become Julia in our business is also mind-blowing. Do you know what I mean? Like that. And you're respected now in a way that I'm proud of you. I'm so proud that you just, because the story is it's such a beautiful story, and that you at this age now are to see you so happy, because you are. And that's the thing. And then when you hear about people who talk about transgendered people, and and the bias and the hatred, and it's like, I would rather have Julia this way than miserable as a man.
the way I was, yeah.
And people don't understand that. They don't understand that, people, because so many people would rather be miserable in their cell forever. Because we've all had friends where all they do is bitch, and then you try to help them, and then they don't fucking do it anyway. You're like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Be fucking miserable. So that you're having so much success as a comedian now. I'm over the moon. Like, one of the things that Julia doesn't talk about a lot, and I think I told you about this years ago when you were on AGT, everyone was so fucking happy for you. Like, comedians were so, like, and we hate everybody. We hate each other. You know what I mean? And when you were on there, I could not tell. The only other person that they had that feeling about was when Tom Cotter was on, because he's also beloved. And I can tell you're uncomfortable. I'm talking about this.
Yeah, thank you.
She's very beloved in this business. And just to see, and then to see the backstory, you all have to see the movie. You have to. It's an amazing film.
Thank you.
Really is. It really, I wish I had some kind of story that you could do a film about, but it would just be me talking about dick jokes.
But what's interesting with Susan is that she never. Correct me if I'm wrong, Susan. You never directed anything before.
Well,
right?
I directed theater, and
Right.
But nothing like a.
I haven't directed a film. No, this
is your first foray into
Yep.
even documentary world. So,
but I think storytelling is storytelling, and finding the spine of the story and all the craft that I know as a screenwriter. It's this looking at this big, gorgeous, messy life and figuring out what the shape of the story wants to be. So that storytelling those storytelling chops is really what comes to it. And everybody that I talked to who encouraged me along the way, the really smart people in the doc world were very ready for me to do this. There was no hesitation. Everybody was really on board. So,
but it did not turn out the way you anticipated in the beginning.
Well,
you talked about your storyboard.
Yeah. No, I mean, in order to raise money for an independent film, you have to begin by telling people what it is you're making. So you have to go through this kind of fiction where you project what the story will be, and it's because it's not a script; it's real life. I followed Julia for 5 years, and her life was full of dramatic surprises.
Oh, yes.
Years. I had anticipated that the climax of the film was going to be. I had budgeted for a 2-day shoot of a comedy special. I was pitching it as a hybrid doc comedy special, and I was going to invite all of her ex-wives and all sorts of family members that, of course, she didn't want to see, but I didn't know that, early on. And it was going to be this backstage front of the house, all the comedy kind of coming together into this, this wild night. And when Julia thinks about it, it's like a Fellini film. It's a nightmare. Of course, that's not where we ended up, because we followed her story, and her story is her life, and her life is full of surprises. And this film has that sense of, you want to know what's going to happen next, because it's not predictable. Her path is very, very surprising and very courageous. So I'm really proud of everybody involved. I had a wonderful composer, Matt Hutchinson, who wrote a phenomenal score, a wonderful animator named Sam Roth, who creates Julia as an animated character. I spent months with him just coming up with who Julia was going to be in an animated form. We looked at photographs. We did all kinds of, projections of what the animated Julia would look like. The film opens with animated Julia's reading a sequence from her book that I asked her to record on one of our shoots. And then I began playing with the idea of that material interspersed with archival and animation, working with Sam on what that animation would be. So it's storytelling with all of these beautiful tools that are components of what it takes to tell a visual story. And I loved it. I loved it. I love every day of the 5 years of working on it. And I continue to learn every day. I'm also producing this film. So, Carole, I know you have producing in your blood too. So, it's a whole other skill set. You have to figure out all the machinery of you've made a beautiful thing, and then how do you bring it out into the world?
Absolutely.
And how do you find business partners, and how do you fund it, and how do you keep your faith alive when it can be so discouraging? There's so many people who want to say no, and you just have to hold on to the yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about being a producer is I liken it to because when my son was young, he was on Little League, and I was the Little League mom. That's basically what producing is. It's keeping the 9 animals together without freaking out. You know what I mean? And they were, who's running off to, play with a bird, and who's doing this, and who's eating candy, and and that's exactly what producing is. It's just like getting the right people around. And what's interesting is that to be a woman producer, like I'm sure people talk behind my back and say, "Oh, she's a bitch," and she's fuck you. You know what? It's my project. So when you do that, I'm very, one of the things about getting the 2 specials for me is now I've got them behind me. Like they're like lifting me up. It's like, you really want to fuck with me now? I have 2 fucking specials on Showtime.
But you've made those muscles. You know how to do it. You got that heavy lifting.
Exactly. And when I go in, when I go in to do a pitch, or when I'm working with people, I don't look at the audience. I don't look at the people around me, whether they're male or female. I said, we're in here doing a project. Let's move it along. If anybody ever, like, when was it? I forgot what this was, but somebody made a snippy, like male, like I forgot what it was, and I forgot where, but I just remember like going, did he just mansplain me? Like, and I was like, and I mean, oh man, I just, and I basically, I didn't yell. And I think it was in an email. I just listed everything, like, so this, and then if we do this, we should do this. And because the reason I said this, and the guy came back and goes, I'm sorry, I came off harsh.
Good for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, we will always have to, as women, we will always have to prove ourselves. There is, except for Amy Coney Barrett, because she's wonderful.
Carole, I have a question for you.
Oh, yes, dear.
Someone told me once that you had a brilliant career as an infant.
As an infant?
Yes, as a child, as a little baby in commercials. Is that true?
No.
No?
No.
You weren't a baby, the face of some famous baby product or something?
No. Unless my parents never told me and they stole all my fucking money, that would be like my parents. No, but that's a great rumor. That's go. Look at Julia's face. Just like, what?
No, it was like you were the Gerber baby or something.
Oh, no. If I was the Gerber baby, I wouldn't be living in a rent-controlled apartment in New York City. I'll tell you that much. I'd be in that place where you are.
I'll tell you something though, Susan. I used to when I was back when I was working, I used to do this opening. I made that up. I made something like that up. When the MC would say, "How do you want me to bring it up?" I would go, "Just tell them that you might recognize this next act as a former child star. That I was the star of this show called Where's Mickey."
I'm great.
And
I love that.
I swear to God, though, people would come up sometimes after the show and go, "I used to watch that show." So,
you're building your own myth. I love
it. You really can. Well, I mean, we've seen several people who are prominent building their own myths these days. Yeah. But I wanted to get back to what you were talking about earlier about learning your craft and you too, Carole. The arc of learning to do something is really the same whether you're a comic, a producer, or a writer. You just keep doing it,
right?
Making mistakes, falling on your face, and people tell you you suck and don't know what you're doing until you get better at it. And then people stop saying that.
Right. Right.
Well, I think it's also that because when you fail, everyone takes it like I've said this before. One of the reasons I love being in my 60s now is because failure doesn't hurt as much.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when you're young and you get those missed opportunities, especially in stand-up, you're just like, how come I didn't get that? Oh my God, my life is over. And then you realize you weren't right for that particular project, whether it's something you produce or write or do comedy with. So for me now, and granted, I have the success of the network behind me, but now it's like, okay, not everything I do is going to be great now either. But it does help when you do get some success at it. But how much shit did I throw on the wall before this, Julia?
Right. Yeah. Well, we all have. I mean, and Susan, we talked about this at the time the movie was coming out about our plans for promoting it and how we were going to do and then plague hit.
Yeah, the original design was doing the festival circuit all over the country, all over the world, ultimately, and Julia will travel with the film and do sets in clubs in the same territory. That was the design. So it's crushing that we don't have that, but it's so wonderful that the film is alive and well and traveling on its own.
It's great. It's so cool.
We mix this beautiful, this experience of seeing the film in a theater with all of that incredible sound. We were in a wonderful studio mixing it. So not to be able to feel the audience and have that, experience of the film with an audience is something I really, really can't wait to have. And we will have it, I know. But meanwhile, the world wants this movie. It's doing really well. And so it's out there in people's homes that's where the theaters are, right? That's where people are communicating with each other is through these,
And for an extra $20, I will come to your house and do a set.
Only $20? God, Julia, you at least go for 25. Right. I mean, come on.
That's why I have Tom. That extra 10%.
Yeah, but I think you also forget, Julia, you've had a long career. You've been in this game for a long time. And when did you actually start? Do you remember?
May 31st, 1980.
Okay. Yeah. So we're very similar because I started in September of 79. So around the, you've got and I think I don't know if this is the same for you. I think it's better that we're having the success now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it.
Carole, I just have to say, I love, 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 love your brand. I love what you're
thank you.
doing with funny women of a certain age. I love the doors you're opening and the opportunities that you're giving to your audience.
Thank you.
To meet so many incredible women, and
Thanks.
to see their stories brought into the fold,
Yeah.
to have a reflection of that's me on the screen. It doesn't have to be a young smart ass, that it can be a lived life that gets to tell wonderful, funny, rich stories that we can identify with. It's just,
Thank you.
You've really nailed a great market and a great brand. And I'm so excited with your new management. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All good things for your whole Little League club.
Well, it's going to be fun. I look forward to the day that Julia and I are on the road together, because probably by day 4 we're going to be on doing this show going, get her away from me. I'm going to fucking kill her. If she talks about that air fryer one more fucking time.
Have you gotten one yet?
No, I haven't. But I literally said to my husband today, there was a commercial on, and I went, there it is. Julia has it, and she loves it. We have to get an air fryer.
I'm not even going
I
there.
talk about it all the time, but only in the fantasy life I haven't really done it yet. Julia,
Yeah.
I live through your recipes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm making tonight chicken for
Chicken what?
just chicken in my air fryer, but don't worry about it.
Are you gonna bring the air fryer with us on the road?
Of course, you can do all kinds of. I'm not going. We're here to discuss Susan today. This is Susan's day. Some other day we'll devote to just air frying.
Yeah, but thank you for saying that, Susan. I mean, like, I really this has always been a labor of love for the women, because I just want to give people something else to see, because you're right. It's and this is not a dig against young comics, but there is something about the richness of people who have stories to tell, and it comes from that, so the fact that women, especially more than men, are shunted aside in everything. Like, for example, honestly, getting back to the whole thing with the Supreme Court judge, she's in her 40s. That's the only reason why he has her, because he's nominated her because she's kind of hot to him. If she was in her 60s or 70s, there would be no way he would nominate that woman, because she's too old. So my goal has always been to say women over 50 are just as vibrant and alive as anybody under 50. We're just kind of a little worn around the edges.
And I really love the way you continue to cultivate this wonderful, like your greenhouse of talent at the Crane. The way you continue all year long to do these great programs at the Crane, where I've seen a couple of them, and they're wonderful lineups. And we know when some of these women are going to find their way into one of your comedy specials. But I shot Julia there. I went out to see a bunch of shows.
Yes.
Of course, I've seen you in every show there. So, I mean, it's a really cool formula for developing the talent that you're going to bring along into broadcast.
Well,
and can I just jump in here too? To her credit too, she to include a trans comic like me or anybody. I mean, there's a couple I can think of. It's for us, from my end of it, it's just I love her to death. I'll love her for the rest of my life, because it means an awful lot to me, and it means an awful lot to trans comics around the country to know that there's a possibility that they could, get to if they get to be 50 and still in the business.
But also, Julia, I mean, yes, obviously, but it was because you were funny, and all I saw was a funny woman. I know that how you identify.
Which should have been the only criteria. That I agree with.
Right,
you. Yes.
right. But one of the things about this show, and it's really important to people who are watching it, the people I put on this show, I don't have to worry about, I can leave and walk away. I know that these people are going to deliver stop making faces. I know that people are going to deliver what they have to. And there have been, I've been opening it up to because we're doing the show at a virtual show at the Crane right now. And I know that people just need to get up on stage. So I've opened it up to people who are younger, older female comics. Does that make sense? They've only been in the business a little bit. But even them, they're really funny. Like, I don't want it to be not funny people.
Mm-hmm. It's your farm team.
Yeah, my farm team. Oh, very good baseball reference. That's a great way of saying it. It's my farm team. And for the women who are watching, who have done the live show and are not part of the special yet, the goal has always been to make this a series. Okay, and eventually, unless could be that they give us one every year, and I'll be 97 and going, wait, I have 5 more women that have to be on it. But when you're dealing with a production, and I know, Susan, you know this too, is when you're producing something, there are other people who are talking to you behind the scenes. So it's not just me. It's not like, oh, I'm going to call my friends and we're going to all do this. Well, then the network has to say, well, we like this person. We don't like this person. We like this person. And Julia knows the story. And Susan, I'm sure you know the story, but for the audiences, when Julia did not get to do the first one, and we were getting
because I was dying.
Because she was dying, because she didn't have an air fryer then. I immediately said, when we got the second one, I said, well, we're bringing in Julia. And to Showtime's credit, they didn't even blink a fucking eye. They went, yes.
Yeah. They love her. Of course they wanted
Of course. But that's really important. That's, like the way the business is like, well, she didn't get the first one, so fuck her, But no, they were like, I said, I want Julia on this show. And they were like, absolutely. So, I mean, I've been very blessed, because I don't want to say lucky. I've been very blessed that the people around me get what the show's about. And also I can smell bullshit a mile away. So nobody that's been on any of these productions has been a dick. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Like,
metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically speaking. But, so I've been very lucky about that. So anyway, listen, we have 3 minutes left before we have to end this cavalcade of fabulous. By the way, just so you know, both Mitch and Don wanted you to know that Jodie Foster was the Coppertone kid.
Oh.
Okay. But are you going to ask me the question?
What question? Oh, the Cuomo question?
Yeah.
Julia, would you like to ask?
Oh, yeah, okay. Of the 3 Cuomos, Andrew, Mario, or Chris, which one would you sleep with?
Well, I'm a fan of this show, so I've had a lot of time to think about this. Probably too much time. So I've been thinking that, in my fantasy life, I would like an old-fashioned threesome. I would like Mario Cuomo and Perry Cuomo and me.
Perry Cuomo. Perry Cuomo.
Isn't it
wow.
Wow.
Wow. She surprises me. She's got a story about a voiceover tape she did about butter, right? It was about butter.
Yes.
That got her all kinds of voiceover work because it was so
Little Blue
sultry. Yeah. And I still haven't heard it. So.
Oh well, then you're gonna have to play that for us someday, there, Miss Susan.
She's got a side to her that she needs her own Q&A.
Anyway, people, as you can see, check out this film, Funny That Way, starring Julia Scotti. Where is the website again? Please remind us.
Newfest.org, and the film title is Julia Scotti, Funny That Way. It's playing from October 17th through the 16th through the 27th at newfest.org, streaming nationally. So your fans anywhere in the country can sign on, buy a $12 ticket, and see it as many times as they want in that period.
Is it limited to the country or anywhere in the world? Like
anywhere in the universe? No, just anywhere in the USA.
Okay, just want to make sure.
But you can get it in Mars if you're up in Mars.
No, I have fans in Canada, and that they asked about it, so I wasn't sure if it was open.
One day.
Yeah.
So thank you, Susan, so much
Oh,
for this.
thank you. I'm so honored. This is one of my favorite podcasts in the universe, and you guys are so much fun. Thank you so much for inviting me. And Julia, thank you for everything. I am so madly in love with you.
And
Mwah.
back at you. Mwah.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you like I said, catch this. We have a lot of stuff coming up. The podcast may be moving, right? We are in talks to have it being aired somewhere else. You look at Julia, not knowing.
Yes, we are. We are. It may be moving. Yes, I'm packed for that too.
Yeah, and next week we will have the director of the second special, Kristen Hartley, is going to be here, so we can discuss behind the scenes what it's like to be a gal.
Great.
Doing that stuff. So listen, ladies, usually after I end, we chat afterwards, but I literally have to run out. So I'm just going to end and you guys can chat by text. I love you both. I love everybody. Stay safe and healthy. 3 weeks till the election. Make sure you vote. Bye.
Bye.